Salut! This video is part of a series on most-known tips for Americans wanting to move to France in 2025-2026. In the first video, we talked about creating a vision for your future life in France. Today, we're going to be talking about the different visa options to move to France, and in the next two videos, we'll be talking about planning a scouting trip and working on your project and visa application. In this video series, I'm sharing my best advice to help you prepare your move to France, always bearing in mind people wanting or needing to generate a top-up income once they're in France. For those who don't know me, I'm Valerie Aston from Start Business in France, and I help expatriates prepare, create, and manage their first activity in France. I've been doing this for over 16 years. How do you choose the best visa for your project in France? France is pretty tricky about visa. The visa tells you what you can and therefore what you can't do once you are in France. And the main visa available for someone wanting to move to France are the long-stay visitor visa, i.e. visiting, no working, not freelancing. The employee visa is when you are sponsored by a company to come and work for them and your employer will take the lead on the visa application. Then we have the artistic visa for those with artistic skills or internationally recognized artists coming to develop their inspiration and art project in France. Then we have the entrepreneur, startup and investors visa for larger businesses. And finally, we have the business visas with the visa profession libérale and visa talent. As my channel is about freelancing in France, I will focus on the business visa in this video, but I want to reiterate an important warning before we dive in, or rather before you make your choice. A visitor visa doesn't allow you to freelance or work remotely in France. I'm going to repeat this because this is super important. You can't work with a visitor visa in France. Now you can watch this video where I talk about the visitor visa, but let me give you a few examples to illustrate this point. The first example is for someone intending to move to France with a visitor visa while having a passive income. For instance, online courses, coaching remotely, or YouTube channels. So there is no such thing as passive income in France. No. If you have a YouTube channel, you're likely to spend at least 2-3 days working on your content, being paid by a sponsor, or creating a digital course. In this case, this is a business. This is a business visa. If you have a YouTube channel with no income whatsoever, you're still a tourist, but as soon as you start earning some income, this is a business. The second example is that there's no such thing as a nomad visa in France. I know we talk about digital nomads, but that doesn't exist in France. You're either an employee of a foreign business or you either freelance, and in that case, you apply for the appropriate visa accordingly. The third example is if you own a gîte, retreat, or Airbnb activity. Often in France, it tends to be considered as a top-up income, therefore not professional, and it could come as a visitor visa. But that's the case, for instance, if you have just the one property that you're renting, or it's your property that you're going to be renting part of the year. But the rule is even more strict, is that this income has to represent less than 50% of your overall income. So if you actually plan to come to France and do gîtes, retreats, renting bikes, adding extra services, as soon as you have something else than just accommodation, this becomes a business. You need a business visa. And if the gîte income generates more income than your private pension or your pension, same thing, this is a business. You need to apply for a business visa. So be very careful about the gîte retreat business. Just think about how much income is going to generate and what do you want to provide. As soon as you start providing services, we're talking about business visa. And my final example is for artists. Many artistic activities in France actually come under crafts called artisan. It's easy to remember because you think about artisan coffee or artisan bread is when you make something with your hands. For instance, if you make some jewelry, you make some ceramics, you're a commercial photographer. In France, you are an artisan and you need to have a business visa. So really, in France, the artist refers to a painter, writer, musician, choreographer, someone creating a unique and creative piece. In that case, they can go for the artistic visa, but as soon as it is more manual, we go for the business visa. All this to say, be very careful of relocation company pushing for visitor visa for a quick buck. I see a lot of them saying that it's going to be easier and it's going to be faster to go for the visitor visa, but then you're stuck and you can't do what you really wanted to do in the first place, and switching from a visitor visa to a business visa could take up to 2 years. And I have two examples at the moment of two customers I've been working for almost a year, where they had a first visitor visa pushed by a relocation company. They had to renew it once before they could start switching to a business visa, And the struggle that they have is that most prefectures outside of Paris don't know that you can switch from one visa to the other. So they're having to explain to the prefecture that yes, they can switch visa. And let me tell you that if you have to explain to a French person how to do that job, we're not starting on the best grounds there. So be very careful and just take time to ask yourself, what do I want to do once I move to France? Now let's talk about the business visas, and I will leave out the investors visa and startup visa because basically for those, they're more for high investments and you want to be working with an immigration lawyer. The first business visa we're looking at is the Visa Profession Libérale, which is my favorite and the easiest one to get. So the Visa Profession Libérale is issued for 1 year and renewable from France. There's no investment required, there's no qualification required unless your activity is regulated, and I would invite you to go and download my 100 business ideas to freelance in France guide just below the video, where I list different ideas. I also indicate if those activities are regulated. So regulated means that some of them you might need a specific qualification in order to start them. And then for the Visa Profession Libérale, you need to generate an income equal to the French minimum wage called SMIC, and in terms of net amount we're talking about 17,500 euros per year after taxes through your business. If you look at your sales minus all your running expenses and social charges, we want to see as a net profit about 17,500 euros. So there's no investment, but you need to generate some money from your business or at least have the equivalent in savings. Let's talk about the advantages and the drawbacks of the Visa Profession Libérale. Part of the advantages of the Visa Profession Libérale is that it's easy to get. Some activities don't require a validation from Ministère de l'Intérieur, and usually we're talking about more the consultancy activities, so coach, consultant, programmer, designers. Those type of activities don't require validation, so they're quite fast to get. Again, refer to my 100 business ideas to see the activities that are regulated or not, those requiring a validation. So for some activities, it can be quite fast, and we might be talking about 2 to 4 months to move to France. And this visa works great with the micro-entrepreneur business type, but it's not limited to this one, it could be other business type. What are the drawbacks of the Visa Profession Libérale? The Visa Profession Libérale, unfortunately, is limited to 1 year, but then you can renew it from France, so 3 months before the end of your visa, you will go to the prefecture and send an updated file asking for a renewal of your visa. The other downside is that your other half, your spouse, doesn't get an automatic visa with the Visa Profession Libérale, so they have to look into their own visa options to come to France. So for some of my customers, their other half might come as a retiree, so long stay visitor visa, or they might come with their own business project, and in that case, go for their own Visa Profession Libérale. The downside is that some of the activities, as I mentioned, are regulated, and in that case, it means that we need to get a validation from Ministère de l'Intérieur, ANEF, and this can take an extra 2 to 8 weeks to get the validation. So you prepare your dossier and you submit to them, they really look at the rules, they're very thorough, and that adds time. The activities that would need validations, for instance, would be the gîte, retreats, e-commerce, buy to resell, photographer, food sector, and crafts artisan. So in that case, it takes a bit longer. It might be 4 to 6 months before you land in France. Overall, the Profession Libérale works best for freelancers, what we call the solopreneurs, where you work on your own, you're a sole trader, you're a micro-entrepreneur, a one-person business, or somebody starting an online activity, or someone even starting as a first-time freelancer. The second most popular visa is the Visa Talent. This visa is issued for 1 to 4 years and is renewable from France. You need to have a master's degree or at least 5 years of experience in your field. And when we say 5 years of experience, we want proof. It would have to be pay slips or documents showing that you work in that field for 5 years or being self-employed. And you will also need to invest 30,000 euros in your project, and this money needs to be in a bank in France for the application. What are the advantages of the Visa Talent? The key advantage of the Visa Talent is that it gets your spouse, i.e. you're married, a visa too, so they can stay in France for the same length of time as you. You validate your own visa and then this will get their own visa too. The Visa Talent is issued for 1 to 4 years, so it gives you some more stability. Once you are in France, you don't have to do that many trips to the prefecture to renew your visa, hopefully, if you got the 4-year visa issued. Just know that the 4-year visa isn't given automatically. It tends to be based on the viability of your project. So if you can guarantee that you've had experience before, you've had a business in that sector, you have some contracts already to start with your French business, they're more likely to give you 4 years. And if it's a brand new activity, you haven't shown many potential contracts or letters of intent, they might limit it to 1 year. Let's look at the drawbacks of the visa talent. The visa talent is more likely to take 4 to 6 months to prepare because we have to get the project validated, it's more thorough, there's more documents, it takes longer than the visa profession libérale. It is also more costly as you will need to prepare some documents. For instance, you might go for an incorporated business, and in that case you will have the lawyer's fee or accountancy fees, or opening a French bank account if you don't have one can also be costly. It's also costly if you go for a subsidiary, as you will need to create the subsidiary with an accountant before you apply, and there will be some fees for this. The other drawback is that you need to invest 30,000 in a bank in France in order to submit your project, so this can actually be quite difficult. So for someone who doesn't have a foothold in France, if you live in the US, you don't own a property in France, you don't have a personal bank account, this can be tricky, and this can also be costly if you ask an accountant to help you open the bank account. This isn't so hard if you create a subsidiary, since the mother company will help you open the local bank account. You need a bit more time to validate your visa talent. It can be 2 weeks to get the project validated before you can move to the next step. And the final drawback is that you won't know how long you got until you have the final carte de séjour. It's a bit of a shame, is because when you apply for the visa talent, so you apply for the visa and they issue a 3 months visa talent for you to come to France. Once you land in France, you have to request a carte de séjour talent. And it's only once you get that carte de séjour that you know whether you got 1 or 4 years. A lot of work, and then you always have the surprise at the end. So I would say that the visa talent is definitely more heavy in paperwork and admin and takes more time because you have all these steps to do before when you request a visa. And also once you're here, you have to give more documents to the prefecture to show that you've created a business, that the money did get placed into a business bank account. So it's a bit more heavy to manage. I would say that the visa talent works best for projects where there's a lot of investment or where you're going to go for an incorporated business. So for instance, a French SANS, SAS, SASU, where you create the structure and you invest the money in the business. It's also easier for someone who already has a foothold in France. So for instance, you bought a property, and with that property you've created a personal bank account. You can speak to your local bank to help you create the account for the business and place the money there. So in that situation, we just save so much time. And it can also be a good fit for properties, gîtes complex, where there will be some investment to be made to improve the property. We've seen the difference between those two visa talent, visa profession libérale. Now, how do you choose between the two? Let me start by saying that every single project is different. So don't compare yourself to someone else on a Facebook group, on a YouTube channel. Your personal circumstances are different and will impact on the choice that you go for. For instance, it could be your project itself, it could be whether you're married, single, whether you have kids, whether you have savings, whether you have an existing business or not. With my customers, I start by listening to their project, their current situation, their long-term plans, and their past experience. And we look at several criteria to help us make a decision, such as the qualification and investment criteria. For instance, for the visa talent, having a master's degree or 30,000 euros to invest can quickly rule that one out. Have they had a business before? Do they have a track record of freelancing? Do we have potential customers or contracts to take over? Is their project regulated or not? The simplicity of the project. For instance, coach and consultant don't really require an investment to run your business, so the visa profession libérale is enough and can also be faster. And finally, what is their project as a couple? Do we need a second visa? Do they plan to work together? For some couple, getting a visa talent enables their other half to work faster or work in the business too. This video is bound to trigger a tons of questions, so I'm inviting you to book a power hour with me if you want to talk through your options and check the feasibility of your project. I will add a link to my calendar and my availability in the link below the video. Now, if you've already made your mind up and you know that you're going to go for the visa talent or the visa profession libérale and you're ready to start working on your project, I'm inviting you to join my French business visa, which is a course with one-to-one coaching with me to help you prepare and submit your business visa application. I will also add the link below the video. We've seen the different visa options to consider for your future life in France, such as the visa talent and the visa profession libérale. In the next video, we're going to be talking about preparing a scouting trip to France.